us do this. Pick a lane. It may be right or wrong. Pick a strategy. It may be right or wrong. That's called psychological flexibility.
Right.
It's the ability to move towards something, whether it's going to work out or not. And we never lose. We only learn. So we can't lose.
Absolutely. What is up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Breathe and Air podcast, where everyday action meets extraordinary mindset. I'm hyped today, guys. We have an incredible guest. He is the founder of this facility that we're sitting in right now, The Greatness Factory, Wall Street Journal bestselling author. Yeah. He's a coach to thousands of people and an inspiration to many. Coach Burt, thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for coming to The Greatness Factory, man.
Yeah.
I'm trying to show people what this place, how we manufacture greatness here. And just, a lot of it's get to the right place and get around the right people. And if you could ever understand those basic things, that could be a life changer for a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely. When you hear an intro like that to yourself, does it still get you hyped up? Do you get a little rush, or is it kind of par for the course?
No, it's it's been a long journey for me, man. I am in my 33rd year of coaching people. I actually started coaching at 15 as a junior pro basketball coach, then as a basketball coach. It was a pure grind. It's been a pure. I mean, I look at the whole thing like it's been 30 years of grind, man. Yeah. So I do have moments where I go, "This is cool."
Yeah.
I get giddy coming to work here.
Yeah.
I get excited about it. I'm like, this is a great place to work. So I'm excited about that. Yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned, 15 years old, starting to coach. You got a head coaching job at 22. So it's these early phases in life that you're really hitting these marks that are kind of uncommon.
Yeah.
Did you always have that fire inside of you, or like, where did that come from?
It's funny because my mom is staying with me over the last couple of days because my wife's in California. I think she's in Orlando. She was in California. And so I asked my mom one day, did I come with batteries included? You know what I mean? I'm always this motivated. And the truth is I was raised by a single mom. She had me when she was 16 years old. She's tough and gritty and scrappy. And she always talked to me like I was an adult because it's just me and her.
Right.
It was like a kid with a kid. So I think a lot of that prey drive that I have was conditioned in me very early in life. Like we get up, we show up, we grow up, we deliver. We don't whine, we don't complain, we don't make excuses, man. Right. And so, but I feel like I did have that leadership chip because as early as 6 years old, coaches said to me, "You're going to be a great coach when you grow up."
Yeah.
So I went back to those coaches and I'm like, "What did you see in me?" Because I didn't see it. I was just a kid. And they said, curious, alert, responsive, hungry, like your first one to show up, last one to leave. So somewhere along the way, I got that. I feel like I did kind of have that, and it was refined and developed through coaches, just to be honest with you. That's why I have such an affinity for coaches. Yeah. It's because I was really raised in a gym or on a baseball field. And man, it's just coaches poured into me my whole life. That's why I have a deep affinity for what a good coach can do. Yeah,
I completely agree. I mean, sports was part of my life growing up, and it was really my identity for the longest time. That was part of starting the show, was kind of re-identifying like who I was and the effect that I was going to have on the world outside of sports. Because, Mason Bendigo was sports for so long. So when you lose that, and any athletes that are listening can relate to this, it's like a piece of you is gone. So how do you fill that? And then how do you leverage all those tools and skills and the things that you've built through sport into the real world? And it really is an advantage, but there is that little time that you have to kind of adjust.
Oh, I remember when I retired at 31 years old from coaching women's basketball, I was like, what am I going to do? Like, this is crazy. Like, what do you do? I'm used to working 80 hours a week. I'm used to sleeping at the gym. I'm used to having a championship to win. Yeah. And I literally was scared to death to leave that to come to this. Now, the reason I left is because I was speaking. I'd already written 4 books, and I was getting asked to speak, and I was making nominal money to go speak, $1,500, $2,000 for a day, which was big money to me.
Yeah, of course.
And I was speaking in West Tennessee, and a woman pulled me out, who's the CEO of the company, privately held company, and she said, "We want you to be our coach." And I go, "What does that look like?" And she said, "We're going to pay you $144,000, $12,000 a month, and we want you to coach 1 week a month." And that blew my mind. I went home and told my mom, and she thought it was a scam. She's like, there is no way somebody's going to pay you that much money to coach. And I'm like, Mom, I'm good. Like, I know how to motivate people. Like, I know how to activate these people. And so that was my first big gig. But I was scared to death to leave athletic coaching.
Yeah.
Now, what I figured out when I left athletic coaching was that the business world lacked a lot of intensity, lacked a lot of structure. It lacked the just basic motivation and drive that the athletic world had. There's a lot of competition in the athletic world. There's always a game to play. Right? It's like we go to bed tired, we wake up hungry, man. It all goes to zero at midnight. No matter how good you were on Tuesday night, Friday night does not care how good you were on Tuesday night.
Right.
The team on Friday night didn't care if you won on Tuesday night. So I got into the business world, and it's like, man, I can make these people better just by increasing the intensity, having scorecards, activating the prey drive inside of them, like pushing them.
Right.
Like I could get a 30% increase in a business just by bringing motivation to the business.
Yeah.
And that was fun to me, but it was also very heavy. So the first 4 years I went into big companies, and like a Navy SEAL, I was hired to come in and get some kind of serious result in a concentrated period of time.
Yeah. What kind of, pressure do you feel on that? Because, you're coming in and you're not necessarily making the calls. You're not the one that, the control's out of your hands. You're coaching, but at the end of the day, just like a coach of a basketball team, it's up to the players to execute. So really, you're putting a lot of your results in the trust of other people, and that's hard for people to do sometimes. So how did you get there, and how did you really motivate them to take the action?
And I figured out that not everybody wanted to be motivated. I also figured out psychological demand, which is when you pay attention.
Yep.
When companies pay for people to be trained, the law of diffusion says, 16% of those people are going to be open and inviting. Right. 34% are going to be early majority. 34% are going to be late majority. And another 16% they could fire tomorrow and wouldn't miss one thing.
Right.
They need to fire those people. So it all depended on the leadership structure. So when it really worked is when I would go into a company and the leader said, we're doing this. Get on board or get out of the way. And they would say, this is our guy. He's highly skilled. He's our coach. And that's when it worked. When it did not work is when the leader and I philosophically did not agree about what coaching really is.
Right.
Coaching is not something you do one time. The military doesn't hand a person a machine gun and say, watch a video.
Yeah.
Good luck. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so training is something you do every day. I train every day in my online academy. My team trains every morning in my online academy. I'm the one on the videos. Every day I learn something new.
Yeah.
Every day I'm reading. Every day I'm studying. Every day I'm getting better. Every day I'm competing. So when it did not work in these companies that hired me was when the CEO would go, here, take these people, turn these duds into studs. And I'd be like, well, it's hard to turn a dud into a stud, no matter how good you are, by the way, because they don't have a desire to want to get better. Right. Now, I could try to activate the prey drive, and in some cases I could. But in some cases, it didn't work because the culture was not ready for a guy like me to come in and push like that.
Makes sense. You mentioned earlier, your first big corporate gig, $144,000, and that just blows your mind, right? But when you were making this transition from coaching basketball into getting into the corporate space, et cetera, you did your first couple of speaking engagements and everything for free to land that first client. So for someone that's listening to this, like, oh, I don't want to, sell my time for nothing. Like, I'm worth more. When you're first starting out, how important is that to just get in the right rooms?
Yeah, I still do it today. Yeah. And I've been in this business 17 years. I've written 22 books. I still do events to showcase my talents. Why does Tony Robbins do a week for free? Why does Grant Cardone do 4 hours on a Saturday for free? Because they can generate thousands, if not millions of leads.
Right.
And the truth is, there's so much commoditization in the coaching world. There's 800,000 people in the United States that call themselves a coach. The average income of those coaches is roughly $47,000 a year. What that does is it commoditizes the industry. It's like there's thousands of real estate agents, thousands of mortgage agents, thousands of insurance people. Right. You don't know who's good and who's not. So one of the ways that I could show you how skilled I am is to let you what I call taste the ice cream. And so I'm doing a 4-week series next week. for free on the habits of the top 1% of performers. I could charge $197 for that, but what if somebody's watching me every day? See, right now we're going to give this away for free, right? So they can see me. So I still do this to this day to be seen and to be known and to articulate. So we call that the showcase. But in the beginning, it's all I did. Everything I did was free. Speak at Rotary clubs, civic organizations, exchange clubs. I remember doing a leadership camp once, and they said they're going to pay me $500, and I was so excited. I drove 3 hours, and I got there, and it was 3 kids. It was like an 8-year-old, a 12-year-old, and they were at a horse camp where they were learning how to ride horses, and they had a little leadership section. And I go, what am I going to do with these 3 kids, man? I don't even have any kids. I don't even know what to say to them. And I pulled my book out and started reading my book to them. And, but they paid me $500, and I did it. Yeah. And it was good.
Yeah.
I've spoken at carnivals. You ever try speaking, giving a presentation at a carnival when people out there playing and nobody, not one person listening? I've spoken at graduations. I've spoken at, you name it, man.
Getting the reps in.
And what that does is it makes you better.
Right.
There's not many environments. I spoke one night to Head Start teachers, and I got there at 5:00. It was at the thing in Kentucky where they have the horse racing, and they had an open bar. And I go, man, it's kind of early for the bar to be open. It's 5:00. And I'm like, what time do I speak? They said 8. By the time I spoke, they were dancing on tables.
They're like, where's the DJ?
It was one of the worst speaking engagements because it was not an environment for me to speak. I told a few stories, and they paid me, and I went on my way. And I said, I don't want to get in the way of them having a good party. They don't want to hear motivation right now, okay? They've had 17 drinks, and they're having a Christmas party. And so you learn, man. Yeah. You learn what not to do.
You've said you don't need more money, you need more people.
Yep.
This space, a lot of spaces, you hear this word networking, right? People look at networking different. What's the biggest mistake you see people make in the networking space or in networking in general?
They make it transactional. The word transaction means to discard. You don't need more money, you need more people. The people have the money. Okay, here's what I mean by that. This is kind of a Dan Sullivan concept, but you have a certain knowledge, a certain attitude, a certain set of skills, and a certain set of habits. Let's call that your cash, K-A-S-H. Okay. You have an ambition or a problem. Money changes hands when problems are solved. You have an aspirational challenge. It's like, man, I really want to do this, but I don't know how to do it. Who could help me? And you go, well, this dude has got a certain knowledge. He's got a certain attitude. He's got a certain set of skills. He's got a certain set of habits. I'm going to pay this dude to help me. Like right now, I'm helping companies go public. I'm helping companies increase their EBITDA so they can sell. I'm on the board of directors of publicly traded companies. I've helped the stock jump as much as, sometimes 30 or 40 times by just infusing my knowledge, attitude, skills, and habits into that company. Okay. So the way I'm remunerated for that is they go, here's what we want to do, and we need this little dude right here who knows how to do it. And I'm trading my cash for their cash. C-A-S-H. Okay? Now, the reason I go to California like I was in this week or Texas, because I need new people. I need to meet new people and bring new people into the cycle who go, I like this guy. Who is this dude? He could help me. But where there's no invitation, there's no monetization. So if I speak in Texas, but I don't say, hey guys, if you'd like to be coached by me, right? I like to say I could coach and mentor you. I could partner with you, but I typically only partner with the people that I coach and mentor.
Right.
Because it allows me to see their behavior over a period of time. Or you could invest with me, right? And A, B, or C. Which of these would you like to do? Well, the people in Texas, many of them didn't even know me yesterday. They were there at another event. So I went to meet new people, and they have the money. They will exchange some of that money with me only for one reason, because they believe I can help them reach their goals. That is trading cash for cash.
I love that. You made $540,000 in a day.
Yep.
And from a basketball salary to building this, you mentioned habits. What are the habits that you had to start incorporating into your life, or that you already had, that were critical for your success to be able to even do something like that, build a place like we're sitting in right now?
Well, I think there's two reasons. There's attitude and there's skills. So there's attitudinal things, Like, you can have a bad attitude toward people. I always say that an airplane has an attitude indicator on it, right? And if you go up in the front of my plane, it's got an attitude indicator, tells you the plane ascending, plateaued, or descending. And people are like that. I could have a bad attitude toward doing this interview. I could have a bad attitude toward the coaching sessions I got to do this afternoon. I could have a bad attitude toward the meetings I got to take today, right? A lot of people have attitudinal problems. I don't want to prospect. I don't want to follow up. I don't want to do that. I don't feel like doing this.
Right.
Okay, so there's attitudinal habits that people have, and then there's skill.
Right.
Skill is every day I do certain things. I chop wood and carry water. Every day I call on new money.
Yep.
Every day I follow up with people who are interested. Every day I try to convert people. Every day I engage with top influencers. Every day I create something to invite people to in the future. It don't matter how I feel or what part of the country I'm in. Like, I'll be in Maryland tomorrow. I'll do the same thing when I get to Maryland. I get settled at the hotel. I'll typically go get some exercise and move and circulate, and then I'll just boom, boom. And bad attitudes make for hard lives, and average skills make for empty bank accounts.
Oh, bad attitude make for hard lives.
Right.
I like that. Average skills make for empty bank accounts. You got to chew on that one.
You can't deposit excuses.
You got to chew on a little bit of that.
You can try, but you can't.
Everyone listening right now is at least aspirationally wanting to be a high performer. They're already there. They're all at different points in their life. What do you think the biggest lie is that high performers tell themselves? Because you hear a lot of information. There's a lot of data we have to sift through in these days. What do you think the biggest lie that high performers are telling themselves?
I think they buy their own hype. I think we're all replaceable.
Yeah.
I think there's people that are get hungrier, people that are got a chip on their shoulder that are dying to knock you off.
Yeah.
I think in my life, because I can only speak for me, after you've been doing something for a long time, it's easy to become complacent at that. It's easy to go, I got this. It's easy to not prepare. It's easy to show up and go, I can do this.
Right.
But that's not what the pros do, man. The pros are pros, and they make the big money because they're that good, right? And maybe they can sing the song. It's like why do major artists, why do they do sound checks? Why do they practice? Right. Why do professional football players practice 4 or 5 days a week? Because they still understand the reps. So I think a big mistake that a lot of top people make is they kind of buy into their own hype.
Right.
And I think that's a mistake. I also believe that a lot of them, like I saw one major influencer that I know said, man, I'm going to get off social media for 6 months and take a hiatus and not be seen. And man, that killed his whole brand. I mean, it literally, like number one, I get it. You need a break. People need a break.
Yeah.
But number two, I'm just going to go get fed by somebody else.
Right.
And once I get fed by somebody else, you're out, somebody else is in.
Doesn't stop.
And I'm not coming back to you. So it's like, I thought that was a huge mistake. Now, he may have enough money that he doesn't care.
Right.
But the beast is hungry and it needs to be fed every day.
Every single day. Yeah, it's like the news of Luka Doncic, NBA, right? Top 5 player.
Yeah. Gets
traded, no one tells him.
Yep.
No one even tells him. He thinks he's going to finish his career there. I mean, the best in his field is replaceable. I mean,
and the question is, I don't watch as much NBA as I do other things, but did he have a good attitude?
Yeah.
Did his teammates think he has a good attitude?
Right.
Does he play defense? Does he, because that's what you hear.
Yeah.
It's like, you can be highly talented, but lack the prey drive that it takes. You know what I'm saying? Like, you could be naturally gifted, how big he is. Like, you could be naturally gifted all you want, but if you don't have an engine, people respect the engine more than the talent.
100%. You just mentioned talent, and you've said, a lot of people are ultra talented, but undercapitalized.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people can relate to this. Like, I know once I get to this state of awareness where I understand my innate abilities and the things that I can provide for people, then how do I actually take it to the next level and create something substantial, create a business around it, create something of value so much so that people are going to pay for it? How do you get to that step?
Yeah. Well, I wrote a book on this called 8-Figure Skills Stuck in 6-Figure Vehicles.
I like that.
And some people go, I'm not an 8-figure person. I'm not even making 6 figures. It's okay. You could be a 7-figure person stuck in a 5-figure vehicle. That was me.
Yeah.
High school basketball coach, working 80 hours a week, thought I had some talent, knew I had a big engine, needed a new vehicle.
Yeah.
The vehicle is how you distribute your talents to the world. Okay. So then I chose a coaching business. Now, nothing wrong with that. The coaching business has helped me generate millions of dollars, which I could have never done as a high school basketball coach.
Right.
But even the coaching business has limitation. Is it too dependent on me? Would people take somebody else besides me? So then I started going, what's a big table? What's a bigger table? This is a question everybody should be asking. What is the big table for you? Then I got involved in publicly traded companies where I'm on the board of directors of a publicly traded company. I mean, my stock jumped 40 times last Friday.
Yeah.
That means that day my stock went up $1.4 million that day. Okay, it would have taken me 20 years as a high school basketball coach to do that, what happened in one day.
Like that.
Okay, so a lot of people are very skilled people, but they have not figured out how to package the skill, how to market the skill, and how to monetize the skill. So I always say, find the skill first. Mine is activation of drive, activation of boldness, activation of packaging, imagination, to help you get a seat at a bigger table. Then once I find the skill, I need to find the problem that I would like to solve. Then I need to find the vehicle that can get me. You can't fly, you can't drive to Hawaii. You can fly to Hawaii, you can take a boat to Hawaii, but you can't drive there. So it's like the vehicle is so critical to your future.
Yeah, I want to go a little deeper because I'm interested in like this. You've created a skill set, right? As a coach, you get into the coaching space, you realize, okay, where's the next level that I can take this? Yeah. How are you starting to get into the right spaces to even have the conversation to get on a board and to be able to say, hey, not only do I want to be on the board, here's what I can provide to be worthy of this position.
Well, that started, interesting enough, is they came to ask me to be an investor in the company. And they said, for this amount of money, we'll give you a board seat.
Got it.
And I go, okay. I said, let me think about it. And I went home that night and I said, I'm going to be speaking at the Greatness Factory on Friday. And they said, oh, we're going to come to this event and see you speak. And I spoke and they saw my skill. And they said, forget the investment, we'll give you the board seat. And we'll give you the shares. Now, this was new to me though.
Yeah.
Then they said, well, we're going to raise capital. Could you help us raise capital as part of your board? And I started talking about it. And sure enough, the stock went up and we've raised millions of dollars for that company in a very short period of time that gave it a long runway. Right. So now the company has capital, stock's going up, great team, an incredible team of people. I couldn't do that without them, right? I play my role, they play their role. But this is why I say go back to, we got to get to the right place and I got to get around the right people. These are people playing at a much higher level. They're trying to get a company to $1 billion valuation.
Right. And
so the Greatness Factory helped me to pull people in because there's not been a person that's ever come here that didn't go, man, that's a cool place. Yeah. You don't build this unless you've done something.
Yeah, no, 100%. You probably get asked who's the Greatness Factory for, right? We're sitting here, we're in downtown Nashville, right next to the 505. And probably a lot of people say, who's the Greatness Factory for? But I'm going to pose it this way. Who is the Greatness Factory not for? Who do you not want to see walk through the front door?
This is not an entrepreneur center where you're just trying to get ideas and it's free. It's for ambitious people who see the value of being around other people that are at the right place. So we've got everything here. It's not that we couldn't have startups here because we could, but it's mostly more mature business people.
Got it.
Who are trying to level up. But now we've got people that are little single solopreneur people, but they see the value of having an office here. They see the value of being in the mix. So it's not necessarily about how much money they make. It's more about how much ambition they have. And are they willing to trade that ambition to get into the room with the right people? So they can be a member here, like they could be in our coaching programs. And our coaching programs start like at $500 a month. So it's not like some crazy number. I coach twice a month at that level. Then it goes up to like $1,500, and then they get to come and be in the room. Then it goes up to $2,500 a month.
Right.
And that gets all access. So it's not like some crazy, ridiculous number.
Right.
But you would see in here next week, I teach for 3 days, typically teach 2-3 days a month. when I'm here, and our members, their members come in from all over the country. They'll come from California and New York and Florida and Texas. And then you'll have local people who come and we'll put people in the theater and we get better, man. Yeah. We're in the business of manufacturing greatness.
What's the vision? I know you have a bigger vision for the Greatness Factory. What does that look like?
To grow these, to build these. I'd probably we're looking at places in Cool Springs right now. We've looked in Chattanooga. We've looked in big cities, from Chicago to Miami to New York City to LA. It's like I was in meetings right before this talking about expansion of this concept, what we want to do with it. Do we want to take it public and raise capital? Do we want to keep it private? Do we want to have a few investors? Do we want to do it through a fund?
Right.
Do I want to own all of them 100%? It's like we're really just trying to figure out the economics of it and what's the best path. But I'm looking for acceleration, man. I'm 48 years old. I had this thought last night because my oldest daughter's at cheerleading competition with my wife, and I'm home with our 2 kids. Thank goodness the grandmother is there with me. But I go, man, I'm going to be 50 years old in the next I'll be 49 years old in August. And then I start going, man, I'm going to be in 25 years, I'm going to be 75 years old. I'm like, I got to do something. Like, I got to get moving. I don't have time to sit around and think about an idea for 5 years anymore.
Yep.
I got to go. There's no shortage. There's $3 trillion sitting in private equity funds looking to be invested in something. There's no shortage of money. There's 3.5 billion people on planet Earth. It's like, why do we sit and think and stall about everything? We think and we stall and we think and we stall and we talk and we dream and what I got to do is get out of mental creation and get into physical action.
Right.
And maybe doing this interview with you is making me think about it, making me think about my expansion. It's like, hey man, let's go. Let's quit talking about it. Who can help us do this? Pick a lane. It may be right or wrong. Pick a strategy. It may be right or wrong. That's called psychological flexibility.
Right.
It's the ability to move towards something, whether it's going to work out or not. And we never lose. We only learn. So we can't lose.
Absolutely. I'm excited to see what happens. Definitely from being here, feeling the energy. My guy, Mike, he's not in here, but the people, right? There's something to it. There really is. And I think it's a space that people need, WeWork, for instance, you saw how big that blew up, and it's that on steroids.
Yep. WeWork had 400,000 members, 400 locations.
Yeah.
Generated $1.7 billion of revenue. And the only reason WeWork didn't work, ultimately, because it did work. There's a lot of books written about it, like it didn't work. $1 Billion Loser, The Cult of We, the movies that were made, We Crashed. Truth is, those people that are writing those books have never built something that got to $1.7 billion. They've never raised $10 billion of capital. It's amazing. What Adam Newman did was amazing. Now, did it shake out the way he thought it would? No. Was there some irresponsibility? Probably, but everybody's had some of that.
Yeah.
And which is why, Mark Andreessen turned around and invested $350 million in him because he knows how to win. So did they lose or did they learn? The truth is that gave me a lot of courage to build something like this.
Yeah. Battle scars.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the way the world is moving, this is going to be a space that's needed more and more. And more people are starting to be cognizant of their health, not only what they're putting in their body, but what they're putting in their mind. And so to be around people that are in that same mindset is so valuable. Now, a lot of people start elevating themselves and separating themselves and, removing from the crowd, the black sheep, right? But they don't know where those other people are. And this is a space that can really cultivate that.
So I go back to something that Ken Coleman, he was here last week. He's got a big show on Ramsey Network, and he wrote a simple book called The Proximity Principle. And it's really about, he said, to change my life, I figured out 2 things. I need to get to the right place, and I need to get around the right people. And that's how simple it needs to be. I need to go to places like the Greatness Factory. Average cat out there in the world is going along about their life, doing the same thing every day, hoping and dreaming for a better life. 77% of Americans wake up and do something they don't love, but they think they're fixated and they can't do anything else.
Yep.
What they need to do is change that environment. They need to get to the right place. Even if it's like, how do I get in there to a workshop? How do I get in there? We do free events here people can come to. How do I get around it? See, I was smart enough at 18 years old to go to coaching clinics, basketball coaching clinics. And the great coaches said to the group, buy these books, do these things. And I'm like, okay, I'm coachable. I want to get better, right? I was getting in the right place. I was getting around the right people. And I actually did what they told me to do. so many people. Like I was in Texas yesterday, 250 people in the room, and they come up and say it was a great talk, and that's not what you're looking for. It's even not to take selfies with the person. It's I'm not against the selfies. I think it's good. Show people you're there and get excited and post on Instagram like I do, but that's not going to change your life. Going there and going, how do I work with that dude?
Right.
I got to work with that dude. That will change your life.
Yeah, we mentioned this space, ambitious people. A lot of times, ambitious people, are forward thinkers. They're innovators. They want to look around the corner. What's next? Like, okay, I got this win, but how can I stack these and how can I get into the right rooms? And a lot of times that brings the challenge of also being present, right? Or having gratitude for this moment. You want more, but you also need to be gracious for what you have. How do you balance that as someone who's, had the success that you've had?
I would say I'm not very good at that. I was having dinner with Tim Story, who's a celebrity life coach out in California, and when I was out there, and I asked him at the end of the talk, what's next for Tim Story? And he said, man, I'm good. I'm just enjoying what I'm doing. And that stuck with me. And the next day I sent him a message and I said, out of everything you said, I said, that was very valuable for me because I'm not very good at that part. I'm always pursuing.
Yeah.
I'm always on to the next play. I'm always looking for the big table. And part of that activates my drive.
Right.
I hate stagnation. But it is true that where I could get much better is just enjoying. Just having moments of enjoyment, happiness, right? It's not that I'm not happy. It's like I don't spend a lot of time thinking about those things.
Right.
And I think some people are just hardwired that way.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to practice it. You have to flex that muscle.
Yeah, it is a muscle.
Taking a step back.
That's right. And going, man, this is cool. Let's just enjoy it for a second. know?
No, 100%. Before you wrote your bestseller, you had 18 books prior, and then you hired a coach.
Yep.
What did that teach you, and what can people learn from that where they're like, I work so hard for all this money, and I'm scared to give it up because a lot of these bigger rooms cost money, right? So how can someone reframe that?
Where there's no pain, there's no change. I was tired of writing books that did not hit the list. I didn't even know how to hit the list. There's a whole game to hit the list.
Yeah.
It's like you don't just write a good book and it just organically goes. Sometimes it's very rare, though. There's a strategy behind it. You got to sell X number of books. You got to do X number of things. You got to, right? And I watched Ed Mylett launch his book, and I thought that was cool. Sold about 100,000 units the first day. It's like crazy. And he did a big event. And I go, we need to be doing that. So I go, who did that for you? So I think I messaged him and said, who did that for you? And he said, Rory Vaden. And Rory Vaden's in Nashville. He owns a company called Brand Builders. And I just picked up the phone that day. I said, I'm sick of this, man. We're doing it. How much does it cost?
That's right.
And I always joke and say I paid $18,000 for 3 or 4 hours. And it was great. Went to a little conference room, nothing fancy. And he just drew up on the board, this is how you do it. And I go, okay. And we did it. And that is the power of a coach. Then I felt dumb for waiting 18 books into it, to be honest with you, because I didn't know any better.
Right.
When we know better, we do better. Maya Angelou said that. I didn't know better. A lot of what people don't do is a general unawareness that it can be done better.
Right.
They never even think, well, we could do that. We could do that. Like I've never built a $8 million building. I didn't know what I was doing. And I made mistakes and I spent a lot of extra money I shouldn't have. And I hired some of the wrong people. But guess what? We're sitting in it. So guess what I have now? Confidence. I could do this again. I could do it better, right? I would have never known that if I wouldn't have just moved toward it. So sometimes we need to focus on the ends versus the means. And that is the way you have a quantum leap. You don't get bogged down in all the details. It's all the mechanics of it. It's just like, let's just get moving, man. Let's just go do it. We'll figure it out.
Right. You've become a person of interest, and you reference, becoming a person of interest. In today's world, you mentioned the commoditization of coaching and even the social media landscape, right? It's becoming harder and harder to differentiate.
Yeah.
How did you take that step and differentiate yourself in a crowded market?
I think it took me a long time to figure this out, but I needed to to figure out exactly what skill I had that was different than other coaches. And all of the people I was doing events with, whether it be Andy Elliott or Bradley or Tim Story or Tim Grover, I mean, all these people you would know,
right.
They all kept saying, man, you're so good at packaging. The way you package ideas, it's just amazing. I kept hearing that. And one day I go, maybe this is where I can win. Maybe I am a specialist at not only activation of prey drive, but there's a lot of people who could activate prey drive.
Right.
Maybe I could be the best in the world at helping people package their intellectual property and actually take that intellectual property and get to a bigger place. And now we're starting to call that the big table. And you'll see me write a book on that called The Big Table, which is how you leverage all of this to go do this. And I'm excited about that. Give me some renewed enthusiasm.
That's exciting. You wrote a book, A to B, right? And I think this all kind of comes down, everything we've been talking to is if someone's here in their life and they want to get here, what is the A to B principle and how can someone listening today use that in their everyday life?
I'm at A, and this is my current position. And there's things about my current position that I don't like. They're good, but I'm frustrated. Frustration, misguided enthusiasm. B, if I woke up tomorrow and life was as close to perfect as it could be as a mental construct, what would B look like? Well, in my B, I have 50 greatness factories. In my B, my passive income is much greater than my living expenses. In my B, my schedule is in a way that I could take my 4-year-old son to boxing Tuesday and Thursday when he wants to go. My ideal B, see where I'm going?
Yep.
So until I tell the brain what I want, the brain just sits over here and complains about this. It's like, oh, life sucks and this is not any good and I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that. Once you tell the brain, this is where we're going, that brain becomes a supercomputer. And it's like, let's go. Who can help me do this? And it keeps in a forward position. And then what I coach people on is really moving from A to B. Mental creation, physical action. That's really what I coach people on.
Yeah. We hear a lot more today. It's even become more prevalent. People state the fact I have depression, ADHD, anxiety, all these things that are seeming more rampant today. And you had an experience yourself at 25 years old where you were in a deep depression. But you've also said that this was one of the turning points in your life, right? Yeah. So what did that moment in life teach you? And kind of how did you use that, what is looked at as a negative connotation, and change it into something positive?
Well, the psychological term is called positive reappraisal. It's where we look back on something in life and we go, that was the best thing that ever happened to me. Truth is, if I would have got married at 25, I would have been married and divorced a very short period of time. I thought I was in love, but it didn't work out. And I went through clinical depression, and that was tough. It was a rough 6 months, but it toughened me up. And I studied confidence, and I walked out of that going, man, I'm going to be one of the leading authorities in the world at confidence. And I'm never placing my destiny in somebody else's hands again. So I walked out of there way better. Once I got through that, I learned that depression is really living in the past. I'm reliving something. I made a bad decision. I created this. I screwed this up because I thought I'd screwed it up. Right. I just kept beating myself up, man. And I wasn't mentally tough enough to go, no. Sometimes you do everything right and it still don't work out.
Yep.
And that's okay. But the truth is the breakdown created the breakthrough. Now, what I see more than anything in today's world is mental health is a major thing. Lack of confidence, depression, anxiety. And that's been created by, everything, social media, the pace of the world.
Yep.
So a lot of people consider me a mental performance coach. I've never looked at myself like that, but that's what they tell me. It's like, man, you helped me get through. Jana on my team would tell you I helped her get through a really rough time of her life. She used all of my stuff to talk to herself a different way, the language of winning. Mike has used a lot of my stuff. A lot of my team members have used my stuff to get to a better place in life. And that makes me proud that I can help them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You also coach couples. And speaking of relationships, right? Your partner oftentimes is going to be, needs to be your biggest, your supporter, your rock, right? And it can lead to good things or bad things depending on the person. What's the biggest problem that you see couples dealing with today? or couples, we'll make it more specific, of entrepreneurial, ambitious people? Like, what are you seeing in those people?
Misalignment of goals, misalignment of vision, misalignment of enthusiasm towards something. One person wants one thing, one person wants another. I mean, my wife would tell you when we got married, she thought I was going to be home at 5 o'clock every night for dinner. Right? In the first 3 years, that created a lot of friction, man.
Yeah.
I thought I'm going to go change the world and be married. She thought he's going to be home for dinner every night. And so when Natalie wrote the book, Living with a Monster, How Do You Thrive in Partnership When You're Married to a Driven Person? She said, I quit competing versus his ambition. I started cooperating with it. And our life got better. So when you think about it, we do these couples retreats. I don't know that I wouldn't call it coaching couples. I think we're facilitating how do you live with a driven person.
Right.
Because it ain't easy be in a relationship with a driven person. And I get that. I mean, I 100% get that.
Yeah. We're coming up at the end of this show. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. The Greatness Factor here in Nashville, incredible building. Coach Burt, thank you so much for the time today. One more question for you. I've heard you pray over a group of people before, you started coaching or speaking. How important is faith to you in your life?
So it's got to be the number one thing. I don't forget where my talents come from. I mean, just a kid from Woodbury, Tennessee. I try to start every day off with a sermon. I try to be in church every Sunday. I try to have a strong relationship with God. I'm practicing this new concept called 2 chairs that I learned from Bob Bodine, who wrote a book called 2 chairs. It's like you just sit there and there's 2 chairs and you're sitting there talking to God, man. It's you in an empty chair, but you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Where you just sit and have some time every day and just say, help me. Yeah. Help me get better.
Right.
Help me be better. Paul in the Bible was, I always say, one of the greatest Christians of our time. And man, he said, I try to do right, but I just keep doing wrong. And if that dude needs help, we all need help.
Yeah.
But the point is, I think I've never shied away from faith in the coaching business.
Yeah.
To me, it's God. I don't use any other words like a lot of coaches do. Mm-hmm. I talk about sermons and scripture and, that's just who I am as a person. And that attracts a lot of people to me. And, that may repel some people from me. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I just never forget where the talent came from and to be grateful and to use the gifts that we've been given to do big things in the world. I think that's an important piece. The parable of the talents is the only place in the Bible that says, well done, good and faithful servant. A lot of people say at the end of their life they want to meet the Creator, and right? That is in the parable of the talents. That is the only place that's in the whole Bible.
Right.
Well done, good and faithful servant. You've done a great job with the little that I've given you. I'm going to give you more.
Right.
And we talk a lot about that. Use the abilities to do big things and bring it back with interest.
Coach, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you, man. Thanks for coming to the Greatness Factory.
Where can everybody find you?
GreatnessFactory.com. TheGreatnessFactory.com, CoachBurt.com. Thanks for coming over today, man.
Yeah.
Just such a great job. I'm so glad we got to do this.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to another episode of the Breathe and Air podcast, where everyday action meets extraordinary mindset. This was Coach Michael Burt, a.k.a. America's Coach. Yep. Go check him out on his socials. We'll link everything in the description. And thank you guys for tuning in. Have a great week.
All right. Thank you, brother.